Coming up on the Empowered Woman podcast.
If you reframe an experience, if you look at things differently, if you have more knowledge, like about narcissism,
Yeah.
then that changes your whole perception. My other mission is to educate on narcissism and to support victims of narcissistic abuse. In a nutshell.
Welcome to the Empowered Woman podcast, the #1 show on visibility strategies for women entrepreneurs. If you want to get empowered to be seen, stand out on social media, stages, TV, and more to make an impact with your voice in business, you're in the right place. I'm so glad that you're here. My name is Mariette Jansen, and I'm your host, professional singer and visibility strategist. Welcome again, and let's dive into today's episode.
Planning for your legacy should be empowering. That's why we've partnered with Tim Gorman, author of Tangled Legacy, Turning Estate Planning Mistakes into Successes, your essential guide to building wealth and securing your family's future. Invest in your legacy. Learn more about workshops, classes, and one-on-one coaching at dgrealtyadvisors.com. Ready to go from financial stress to financially thriving? At Money Essentials for Women, we provide coaching and resources to help you reach your biggest financial goals with ease. From early retirement and debt payoff to home ownership, career growth, and more. Learn more and set up a free consultation with one of our expert coaches at www.money-essentials.com. Hi, Mariette. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Hey, Marta, good to be here.
Yes. Yeah. I'm so excited for us to chat. You have such an interesting topic to share and mission and message. I have never had anyone here on the show talk specifically about this. So let's get right to it. Tell us who you are and what you do.
Yeah. So my name is Dr. Mariette Jansen. I'm a psychotherapist, a life coach, and author of 2 self-help books for people who suffer from narcissistic abuse. And, that's what the focus of my work is for the last 10 years. So, yeah.
Wonderful.
That's what I do in different ways. And really, if I have to summarize my mission, I've got a whole story around narcissism, but really what I bring is I make people think. And then people look at me like, oh, I'm thinking, don't say that I'm not thinking, but that's not what I mean. I mean, if you reframe an experience, if you look at things differently, if you have more knowledge, like about narcissism, then that changes your whole perception. So really, that's sort of in a very vague way is my mission. My other mission is to educate and support people, to educate on narcissism and to support victims of narcissistic abuse in a nutshell.
That is wonderful. And I would love to hear the backstory. But before, I think we should define what narcissism is, because I think in the last several years, this has become a more common term and people have been bringing this out to light. But I would love to hear from an expert what it exactly means so people can have a clear definition before we move on into the conversation.
Yeah. So there is a difference between narcissistic behavior or selfish behavior or self-centered behavior and people who are having a narcissistic personality disorder. Yeah, so that's a huge difference. I would say people who have a personality disorder will be in that framework. People who have narcissistic behaviors will be able, if they wish so, to change their behaviors. So it's a big difference. And I would say the main thing, the thing that is really key around a narcissist, so someone with a narcissistic personality disorder, that there is no empathy. So they are hurting people around them, but actually they have no idea that it's a very unkind, that it's maybe not done, that it's sort of like they seriously don't care. And because they have that shield of I don't care, you can't get in and explain to them what you did there was really upsetting. What you did there was actually wrong. Because the moment you do that to a narcissist, narcissistic personality disorder. So when I'm saying narcissist, I'm talking about someone with the personality disorder.
Okay.
The moment you say to a narcissist, you are wrong,
Mhm.
they have a very strong reaction to that because they can't handle being wrong.
Interesting.
So they are always right. And if you doubt if someone is really on the spectrum or if it's just behavior, just go against what they're saying. Give them negative feedback and gauge their reaction because
Okay.
it's totally over the top when there is a narcissistic personality disorder at stake.
Interesting.
And the reason for that is that the disorder is founded, the foundation of the disorder has to do with an innate lack of confidence and self-esteem and really believing they're unlovable and therefore behaving in a way that they sort of attract attention and they attract affirmation and they attract energy from other people in order to feel better about that. But
Okay.
again, because they lack the empathy, they lack a way of thinking, they are not able to sort of really address that lack of self-esteem and confidence. What regular people would do, they say, oh my God, I'm so low in confidence. I need to do something about it. And I'm going to find a solution. A narcissist will never reach that place. They will always deny that is what is going on for them. But subconsciously, that is what motivates all their actions.
Okay. Well, you touched on something that I was going to ask about how this develops. Is it something that starts in childhood? Can it start later on? Tell us more about that.
They're different. There's a lot of not knowing around this topic, but there seems to be a genetic element. Could be. Then there is this thing where, children grow up. They are not used to being told off or everything is positive. And, oh, Johnny, the sunshine out of your bottom all the time. And little Johnny thinks like, oh, if that's the case, I'm a god. I'm a sort of,
Yeah.
that fuels that sort of idea. Social media, of course, is sort of make everyone so self-centered and are really fueling that people want to be, oh, look at me, and I have to shout it out. And then there's another element, and that's a biological thing. In 2013 in Germany, there was a group of researchers, and they did MRI scans of the brains of people who had narcissistic personality disorder. And what they found was there was a certain lobe in the brain which honed kindness and empathy and that type of emotion, it was absent.
Wow.
So that's one of these shocking things that you think like, oh my goodness, no wonder someone with NPD can't change, because that's what is at the core of change. It's just not there.
Wow, this is such interesting information. Now, I'm curious to hear, because you've been a psychotherapist for a while, but you said in the last 10 years is when you've been focusing on this topic. What prompted that? Can you share a little bit more about your story?
Yeah, and what prompted it was really the discovery in my own life that I grew up with a narcissistic mother. And I had no idea. I was 55 when I really knew what was wrong in our family. So I grew up in a dysfunctional family. I always wanted to have a relationship with my mother, but I didn't get that. And I was running around to get, to build something like that. I loads and loads of therapy. And the therapists were all like, oh, you have to repair the relationship. You have to run around even harder. You have to do this, you have to that, making me feel all the time that it was down to me, that I was the one who wasn't capable of getting a good relationship. Add to that of course the messages that came from our mother was, you're not good enough, you are hopeless, you are sort of a nasty piece of work. There's lots of projection there as well, but I took all that on board, and you can imagine it's not a formula for a real happy childhood. And and happily growing up. And with all the therapy, no one ever brought to the table that maybe there was something else going on. Maybe it was not about potentially healthy relationship, but maybe it was just something that would never materialize. And then I also, thanks to Dr. Google, finding out things. And at one stage, I remember there was this checklist of a narcissist. And I went through that checklist and I could not believe what happened. It was tick, 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 tick. My mother ticked all the boxes. And that's when it hit home. That's when I thought, like, wait a moment. It's not me. It's actually her. And it's not about her and me and whatever it is. It's about is there something we can create between the two of us or not? And reading more and more about the topic, I realized that there's nothing possible. This is just something, and I have to accept that, and I have to live with that. And it has given me a lot of freedom, knowing that. Because I could let go of the dream that maybe at one stage we could be closer. Maybe there would be a little bit of a positive experience between the two of us.
And so share with us how then you started this journey of then supporting people in identifying somebody that has narcissistic behavior or the disorder in their lives, and how to set those boundaries. And then you got to writing your books. I want to hear more.
Yeah, the book kicked it all off.
Okay.
No, my parents lived in the Netherlands, and I'd cut the cord already. I could not be in contact with them. And that's a big decision for anyone who says, I don't see my mother, I don't see my father, I don't see my siblings. Never think that that's an overnighter. It takes a lot of energy and a lot of processing to make that decision. But I had made that decision. So we were separated, geographically, because I lived in the UK. And but my father was dying, and I went over there for the last time, which was only confirming that nothing would ever change. Even at that moment, nothing would ever change. But when he died, it was my mother was the only one who's left. My siblings had already gone, and that gave me the freedom to sort of write my book, write about my upbringing, the dysfunctional family, the whole phenomenon of narcissistic personality disorder. Combined that with, when the book came out, I was lucky here in the UK. I had a massive article in one of the big daily newspapers, and it was like a spread of two, but it was all about saying no to your mother and not want your mother again, all this sort of. It was quite very dramatic and very sort of, it's the approach, yeah, how do you say, a bit sort of anyway.
Hey, let me ask you a question. Would you like to be my next guest on the Empowered Woman podcast? Do you have a story you'd like to share? Want more visibility for your business on a show ranked in the top 0.5% in the world? Well, then head on over to martasburg.com/podcast guest for more information.
It was good for me because it gave me a lot of publicity. Yeah. It gave me a lot of angles to talk to other medias, and I had a few articles published in Newsweek, the American sort of version, and some other papers and magazines, and that really launched my whole career into this topic, because all of a sudden I had so many calls from people who wanted to work with me because they'd read articles, they saw some videos, and they were like, oh, I recognize this. And as I said earlier, in my life I've never had a therapist who understood what had been going on, and that was true for a lot of other people. So when I then popped up as the person who has the professional and the personal experience, it attracted a lot of new type of clients, I would say, or really specific clients.
Yeah, well, that makes a difference when you have the clinical expertise and the personal experience. It's just the combination to support people further. What is the name of the book then? And can people find it on Amazon?
Yeah, it's all on Amazon. It's this. Here it is.
Okay,
From Victim to Victor.
wonderful
Yeah,
title.
it also has a checklist in it. And what is really interesting, when a lot of people talk about narcissism, they talk about a narcissist. I talk about a victim.
Mm,
I talk about you. If you've been targeted by a narcissist, if you've been hurt by them, it's your healing
yeah,
that's important, and not necessarily understanding exactly why they did that
right.
or how that all came about.
Mm,
And so from that point of view, it's a real self-help book.
yeah.
And there are questions in there are exercises in there,
Mhm.
and there is information in there. Yeah.
That's powerful to really empower the person that had this realization and now what can they do? It's their own healing journey. I love that you said that. It's not about pointing fingers or trying to go back in the past. When did this begin? Why did this start? It's not you. So focus on
Yeah.
yourself. I love that. So from victim to
And which is interesting for anyone who's listening, is like, if you are in a relationship with someone, or if you are in a family and sort of,
yeah,
some people are behaving in a certain way, the narcissist will create in your mind that sort of doubt and the sort of the hunger for you to spend thinking time on them and to spend emotional energy on them. And all my clients, not really all of them, when I ask them, how much energy, mental energy, do you spend on your narcissist?
oh,
First of all, they say all too much, too much, but it's really more than 90%.
wow.
So if you have someone living in your head,
Hmm.
where you try to suss them out, where you try to work out what to do, how to behave, how to sort of
Right,
deal with this situation, that is another red flag. And it's unhealthy anyway, even if it's not a narcissist. But there's boundaries between individuals.
right,
It's, no point to have someone else living in your head and basically directing your life.
right. It's like a prison. And back to what you said, once you had that realization, you felt so free because it took you, wow, this is what I was living in, and I have a choice and I can change that.
Yeah.
That's powerful.
Yeah.
So besides the book, I know you have a free resource for people to figure out if they do have or who is maybe a narcissist in their life. Can you tell us more about that resource?
Yeah, well, it's just a very simple quiz. If you think there is a narcissist in your life, just take yourself through the questions, so tick the boxes, and then submit the quiz. In return, you will get an ebook which will explain to you how to recognize and how to deal with a narcissist on a very basic level, but it's very helpful to get started, because for a lot of people, it feels very daunting to really look at someone in their life and say, oh, that is a narcissist, that is an emotional abuser, and I am emotionally abused. Those are big, big statements.
Hmm.
Uh, which is, it's very difficult to sort of really start to own it. Again, that is also a process. So this is all helping you to go through the motions to find out what is really going on.
Yeah, it's a journey of several steps because it's easier to live in denial when right, you realize it's something serious and that you have to take action and things need to change and it's up to you. It's a process, but thankfully there are people out there to support whoever's going through it.
But when it comes to narcissistic abuse, emotional abuse, what happens to the victim is they lose themselves.
Right?
They lose their confidence. They doubt things that they are saying because they're being gaslighted. It's almost like this. I have this metaphor of an octopus when I say a narcissist gets into you via the soft tissue of your heart, all
Oh,
lovey-dovey, and yeah,
great.
and then they climb up, up, up. They're in your head. They
Oh, my goodness.
slurp everything that's you out, and they they explode their poison in there. And you will not know what is me, what is them, what is right. I can't make decisions. If you can't make decisions, if you continuously doubt your words, your sort of, what do I do next? It's also a sign that something is not in place, because everyone who is balanced and is, grounded in themselves will be able to make decisions.
Right.
But if you can't do that, that's another thing. But with narcissistic and other emotional abuse, that's what happens to the victim. They just lose themselves, lose all their confidence. Just then from that point come and say like, I have to take action. I have to step away. That is very challenging.
Yeah, it is. So besides the book, you have this resource on your website. How can people work with you? Do you take clients virtually? Tell us more.
Yeah, it's basically it's one-to-one.
Okay.
I started to try and do some workshops or bigger groups, but it's such a delicate subject and it's so personal for everyone that actually it's quite threatening to come out with your, with the big things in a bigger group. So it would be a one-on-one. It's via Zoom these days, unless people live around the corner and want to pop in. That's also fine. But, in principle, it's Zoom. But before you agree to work with me, you can book a free coaching call. And it's also on my website. It's on the front of my website. You book a time and we talk it through. What is it you're looking for? What can I do for you at this very moment? I always want to have more clarity for the person who books that call. And if they then want to work with me, we take it from there.
That's great. And I'll make sure and have all the links in the show notes so people can connect with you. Now, before we wrap up, I would love to ask you my $1 million question that I ask all my guests. Are you ready?
Okay. What is it?
So, Mariette, what is an empowered woman then?
An empowered woman is a woman who knows, accepts, and loves herself, who knows how whatever is part of her can work for her or against her, and she will make the choices to make it work for her, and will own everything that's part of who she is.
That is so true. There's all these parts of us, and then we can choose to leverage it for something good, or
but also to really accept.
Yeah.
Simple example is that I'm hopeless at navigating. It just doesn't work. It doesn't compute in my head. And even with a sat nav in the car, it's not really easy for me. So I can be angry about it. I can tell myself off about it. I don't do that. I just leave 10 minutes earlier, knowing that one way or another, I might sort of make a mistake, highly likely. So I just sort of work with it in that way. So, hey, and for me, it's no big deal. If it's a big deal for someone else, it's their problem.
Right.
It's never.
So true. Work with yourself instead of against yourself. I love that. Yeah. Well, besides your website and your book, how can people connect with you? Is there a social media platform you hang out at?
Yeah, it's social media is all Mariette Jansen, for Instagram and for LinkedIn and for other channels. And for YouTube, it's Mariette Jansen Doctor. Hey. I don't know how that came about, but it's sort of. So I've got lots of little videos. My latest series is 27 videos up till now. It's all about Unspark the Narc. So how can you protect yourself? How can you deal with narcissistic behaviors that are coming your way? They want to spark your low confidence and they want to spark your upset and they want to have you into tears. What can you do to prevent that?
Nice. So we'll have to check out your YouTube channel. Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing with us, for shedding light on this, and for supporting people through your lived experience and also your expertise. I appreciate you.
Thanks so much for tuning in today. I hope this episode empowered you. And if you enjoyed the show, please join the Empowered Woman community on Facebook and share with friends or leave a review on iTunes so more people can discover this empowering message. Until next time, bye.